gentlemen, that was the Stillwater Wind Symphony under the direction of Mr. Dennis Lindsay. Each year in May, I peruse the Stillwater area high school band's website to see how they did in various contests throughout the year. And really, so I can brag about them at this ceremony at the end of the calendar, or the end of the school year. And truth be told, I was a band kid myself back in grade school and junior high, so I can identify with the hard work that the youngsters do. So this year, I note that 13 students were named to the Suburban East Conference All-Conference Band and Orchestra list. 4 individuals were named All-State, and there were several more group and individual honors at various musical festivals throughout the area this past school year. I am so pleased that our high school bands program lives up to their motto, a tradition of excellence since 1926. So as I mentioned, Mr. Dennis Lindsay is the current conductor, having served as the lead conductor for this ensemble since 2008. Mr. Lindsay, Stillwater Wind Symphony, thank you for joining us here today to honor those who made the ultimate sacrifice in defense of our rights, freedoms, and our very way of life. Well, welcome all you hardy Minnesotan folks. I heard we have some Wisconsinites here too, so you are welcome as well. You really, if you could transport yourself up to the hill and look down, you would see this panoply of color. And I don't think we have a single tent that looks alike, or we have a single umbrella that looks alike, but we are hardy and we are here on this Memorial Day, and I thank you for being here for that. A little note that we do have some more chairs. If folks want to have chairs, they're actually semi-dry. They're over to my left, and there's somebody over there who hands them out if you want a chair. We do have about 10 or 12 seats here. We've got a few. We got about 8 chairs or 9 chairs over there under the whatever that thing is called, the tent, under the tent. So please, if you want to take a seat, please do, because the ceremony is known to go just a few minutes. So again, welcome to Stillwater Memorial Day ceremony, and I am David Rattay, the chairman of the Stillwater Veterans Memorial, and I'm your MC for the day. While we're grateful for all who have served our great country in some capacity, on this special day each year, we specifically mourn with the families and friends of service members who paid the ultimate sacrifice on behalf of their fellow countrymen, as well as we take special note of those who have been taken capture as prisoner of war, whether they survived the ordeal or not, and we remember those who've gone missing in action. While this hallowed ground recognizes the service of nearly 1,500 veterans with granite pavers spread throughout the site, the beautiful spire behind me and its various plaques particularly memorializes the wartime sacrifice of over 120 young men from Stillwater area public schools. As I reflect on this day, I'm mindful of a quote from counselor and author Craig D. Lounsborough, who said, "I am thankful that there are those among us who have sacrificed dearly on behalf of us, and I ardently pray to God that I might be less like myself and more like them." I mentioned at last year's ceremony how we keep an eye out on important military and veterans issues throughout the past year, and we try to weave those themes into our Memorial Day and Veterans Day ceremonies. Last year was the POW MIA. This year we'd like to bring to your attention a continuing concern within the active duty, reserve, National Guard, and veterans ranks. Military service-related suicide. While it's a difficult topic, it is critical to shed light on its presence within the ranks and its debilitating effects to service members, their commands, their families, and friends. I could quote you all day long statistics that prove our concern, but suffice it to say, as one Army spokesman said, we must continue to ensure commanders have the policies and resources they need to prevent suicides, that all leaders have the tools to identify soldiers who are suffering and to positively intervene, and that all soldiers view seeking mental health care as a sign of strength. One such group that works with active duty and veterans groups is Operation 23-0. They get their name from the statistic that 23 veterans plus one active duty service member, on average, die due to suicide daily. Their concerted effort is to curb the massive rates of veteran and military suicide through awareness and providing a network of fellow military members to connect with for help and support. Today, the Stillwater Veterans Memorial partners with 23-0 to bring to your attention this crisis as we seek a change for those touched by this epidemic, while also striving to reduce the suicide rate to zero. Operation 23-0 provides opportunities for people to come together in a comfortable setting and meet other similarly minded individuals through group events, and they provide a network to reach out to in times of need and distress. Just a simple buddy check can mean the world to someone, that they are not forgotten. If you'd like to know more, we have some folks here today who I can connect you with, some of whom know firsthand the effects of service members being hit by a sniper bullet 7,000 miles away while on leave from war zones. A quote from Martin Luther King Jr. on Operation 23-0's website sums up one coping strategy several of us have used when under seemingly insurmountable pressure. If you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But whatever you do, you have to keep moving forward. Please rise for the singing of our national anthem by Lilium, Miss Chain of Lakes Outstanding Teen 2019, followed by the invocation by Stillwater Veterans Memorial Board member Tom Simonette. Ladies and gentlemen, the Star Spangled Banner, our national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets regular, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Detail, poster colors.
My dear Lord, please look down on us here today as we remember our sisters and brothers in arms, those brave souls who, at the call of duty, stood tall defending our freedoms and who we cherish so closely in our hearts. Their names appear on our wall of honor behind us and on the memorials across this great nation, never to be forgotten. We here today pledge to always remember their sacrifice on the sea, land, and air. Give us the strength to continue their defense of the freedoms that we ask them to defend. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. And we're going to go slightly out of order, and I now present the Craig Korsman.
Across the sea, with the glory in his bosom that transfigures you and me, as he died to make men holy, let us live to make men free while God is marching on. Glory, glory, hallelujah, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. His truth is marching on, marching on and on, marching on and on. Amen. 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 While the storm clouds gather far across the sea, let us swear allegiance to a land that's free. Let us all be grateful for a land so fair, as we raise our voices in a solemn prayer. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, to the ocean, white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home. My home, my home. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, to the ocean, white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home. America, my home.
That was the Craig Korsman, and thank you very much, gentlemen. They've been a long-time participant in our Memorial Day ceremonies and other things around the valley, so we greatly appreciate them attending. So I'd like to now introduce our guest, our keynote speaker and a guest speaker. He's an honored guest of Stillwater Veterans Memorial, Chaplain John Morris, Colonel, United States Army. And Chaplain Morris is not a stranger to Stillwater, not a stranger to the Stillwater Veterans Memorial. In fact, I was reminded he was speaking here when we inaugurated this place, so back just a few years ago. So I'm gonna speak about him after he speaks, so he can move on to his next event. But I want to get him up here and make sure we have a chance to hear what he has to say, and I'll talk about it later. So Chaplain Morris.
Hey, good morning, Stillwater. In the Army, we say if it's not raining, we're not training. I see a bunch of soldiers and veterans of Army service, Marine Corps, Navy, Coast Guard, Air Force. Thank you for coming out on a unique day. If you were here 15 years ago, it rained when I spoke as well. Do you see a pattern? You might want to get a better speaker next time. But it's an honor to be here today, and I want to say thank you to the Stillwater Veterans Committee for all the hard work. How about a hand for them? What a great city to host an event like this and to come out on a day like today. Memorial Day for me is already a very emotional day. But to see you here, wow. There's still a backbone in our country. There's still patriots in our midst. And for those of you that brought your children, God bless you. Thank you for raising your kids to love the country. And to help them understand that men and women they never met died to give them the opportunity to have the privileges they have and will have. So for me, it's an honor to be here, and I want to say a special thanks to the 2 Gold Star mothers that are here, for whom every day is Memorial Day, and every day they make a tremendous sacrifice. So we honor you ladies here today. How about a hand for our Gold Star moms? Well, ladies and gentlemen, today we joined small villages and big cities and groups like ours at national cemeteries across the country in this time-honored tradition of remembering a very specific group, those who fell in combat and died of their wounds from combat. And so we remember battles in faraway places and wars that are almost forgotten in our history books. We're thinking today about 1 million+ citizens who took up arms in places like Lexington and Concord, in the Philippines, at places like Antietam, Gettysburg, Shiloh, in horrific battles like the Meuse Argonne, in almost forgotten battles in Cuba. Tiny little islands in the Pacific, Guam, Iwo Jima, Saipan, the jungles of New Guinea and Guadalcanal. Celebrated battles like the one that we're almost upon its 75th anniversary, the battle at Normandy, which we know as D-Day. But forgotten battles like Kasserine Pass, where the American Army took a tremendous beating at the hands of Rommel and the Germans. Anzio, Cassino, and places we've forgotten about, the Dominican Republic, Haiti, the beaches of Lebanon, which many of our kids don't even know that we once visited and then again paid a terrible price in 1983 with 282 Marines killed in one explosion. Today's a day when we go back and we stand with our Vietnam veterans and remember unique places. Hamburger Hill, the Parrots Beat, the rock pile, Khe Sanh. And we join arms with our Navy brothers, and we think of battles at sea, Midway, the Coral Sea, the terrible surprise attack on Pearl Harbor, of which this week we'll bring home a Minnesotan who died on the USS Oklahoma. And we'll think about Korea today, and Chosun, and the Pusan Reservoir. And we'll think about Pork Chop Hill. And then all those who've died since then in Korea, up on the DMZ, where things have never really quieted down. And the war continues, a cold sort of war. And we'll fast forward today to our current conflicts, and we'll think about Grenada, Panama, Desert Shield, Desert Storm, and all those we lost in Iraq, where I've served 3 different times, in places like Basra and Baghdad, Fallujah, Sulaymaniyah, Al-Qut, Tal Afar, Mosul. We'll think about those who died in Afghanistan and continue to serve there today in the Korangal Valley and Helmand Province, Kabul, and in dozens of other places where they died on the road due to IEDs and sniper attacks. And all of that brings us to our ceremony today. We're here to do one thing, and that is to remember so we can personalize the terrible price that's been paid so that you and I can enjoy all the wonderful things that the United States of America affords us, but above all, freedom. So for me, every Memorial Day, I try to remember the man who made me an American, Alvin F. Davis, who on August 28, 1944, rolled up with a combined task force of the 7th Armored Division and tried to fight his way across a bridge on the Marne River into a village by the name of Epernay, France. If you're a drinker of champagne, that's right in the middle of the Champagne region. And in that village, in a cellar, hunkered down with her family, was my mother, who had known all of her adolescent years under German occupation. And as the battle raged throughout the night for that village, Alvin Davis and 12 other Americans gave their last full measure that my mom could be freed the next morning. So I was raised on stories of German occupation and American freedom, and I was raised to believe that American soldiers were 10 feet tall, and that I owed this country a debt. So nobody had to tell me I needed to serve, or my brothers. We all joined, not because we thought we were something special, but we thought this country was something special, and it needed to be defended. I think today of Father Tim Vakich, a great priest from Minnesota, an Army chaplain, who was blown up in an IED attack in May on the 12th anniversary of his ordination, May 2004, near Mosul, on his way to celebrate Mass with a group of soldiers. Father Tim, who had served churches in Eden Prairie, received shrapnel to the brain, lost his eye, and 4 years later died of his wounds. But a great young priest doing what he was ordained to do in the toughest of places. A volunteer like me who wanted to serve his country and serve those who were defending it. I'll remember Father Tim today. And I'll remember today a young man from Washington County, went to Woodbury High School, Connor Masterson, a specialist in the United States Army, combat medic in Afghanistan. His patrol came under attack, soldiers were wounded. He dismounted his vehicle and exposed himself to enemy fire to render first aid to another American soldier, and he was killed. Born and raised in our midst, a local representative of what we're here to do today. Remember men and women who gave everything so that we could enjoy American life. So for me, today's a day not just to remember, but it's a day to reset, refocus, and recommit. It's a day to remember that I'm one of the lucky ones who got to come home from war. And I'm trying to live 3 or 4 lives in one because I remember young men who didn't get to come back. And many of you have names on your heart that motivate you today to be a better American, a better neighbor, a better citizen, a better father, grandfather, husband, wife, sister, a better person, because other people didn't get to live a full life. Today is my day to recommit. Many people do it on New Year's Day. I do it on Memorial Day. This is when I make all my commitments for the year ahead. And I try to remember what it cost for others to allow me to get here, and then I look ahead and say, what am I going to do to be worthy of what they've done? A lady came up to me once after saying that and said, well, you have survivor's guilt. And I said, well, ma'am, you must have a degree in psychology. She said, I don't. Well, then I don't have survivor's guilt. I have no guilt about having served in the military in combat. I have American gratitude, and I'm trying to live a life worthy of the tremendous sacrifice over 1 million people made to get me to this spot. If you heard guilt, I misspoke. I hope what you hear is gratitude. And it was bred into me by a French mother who told me every day in this country is almost like being in heaven. When you can walk streets and speak freely, worship where you want according to your conscience, choose an education where you want it to be, and your hard work can earn you opportunity beyond imagination, you've won the lottery of life. You're an American. Some people have heard me say that and say, well, you know, that's kind of old-fashioned. Well, so be it. I'm proud to be an American. And I feel like there's not enough that I could do to thank God Almighty and these men and women who've given their lives for the privilege of serving this country. If I have any guilt that I don't have enough life to live to pay back the debt I owe. How about you? So I end on this note today. Sergeant Major Daly is the Sergeant Major of the United States Army. And recently he shared this story with several of his soldiers. He had taken a senior leader of a foreign army who is an ally of the United States on a tour of Arlington Cemetery. If you've not been to Arlington, it's awe-inspiring. And as he drove this leader of the foreign military through the cemetery, he explained its history and the work that's done to maintain the cemetery and the role of the old guard in honoring all those who are buried there. And he went down to section 60, where our honored dead from our most current conflicts are buried, and he showed them all that's done there for a military funeral. And this foreign leader looked at Sergeant Major Daly and he said, you know, I'm in awe of how the United States honors its war dead. Do you realize you treat your dead better than we treat the soldiers in our army in my country who are living? Ladies and gentlemen, we gather today because we honor our dead in a way that no other nation does. And it's because I think we all share in common a tremendous understanding of the preciousness of our freedom, its fragility, and the terrible price that's been paid. And so as you honor them in your own way, I join you today in saying thank God for them, for their service, and may God assuage the sorrow of their families as we enjoy the fruits of their sacrifice. Amen.
Thanks, Chaplain Morris. So what I wanted to brag a little bit about Chaplain Morris, and I'll keep it brief due to the weather conditions, and I know he's going to step out here shortly So I believe it's in the program. It's got some information in there about him. But he did grow up an Air Force brat, which means he moved around the country a bunch. But eventually he decided to come to Minnesota, and where I would argue it's God's country. So man of God figured that out. And went to University of Minnesota, went to Bethel Seminary, eventually went off into the Army as a chaplain. And he's made it a few times over to the sandbox over there, and we appreciate him doing that. But he always seems to kind of find his way back here to Minnesota, and he's currently at the General Colin Powell Leadership Academy, and he's looking to move to even another role beyond that. But I think it's significant to note that one of Chaplain Morris's greatest contributions when he was in the Army was he helped co-develop the Beyond the Yellow Ribbon campaign, and many folks here know what that is. In short, involves how to reintegrate between families and soldiers and others who come back from deployment overseas, how to reintegrate back in society here, because let me tell you, it's a little bit different when you go over to the sandbox than it is coming back here to beautiful God's country. And that program was so successful and so impactful that the Army and others, really Congress, has mandated the program be applied throughout the services. I think we can take great pride and quite a legacy. His other legacy is he has a couple daughters who also joined the military and they're members of the Air National Guard. And last thing I'll brag on him is you won't find many military members or former service members walking around with the Bronze Star, but Chaplain Morris has one of those for his great efforts he's had over there. So once again, thank you, Chaplain Morris. I also want to brag briefly on Lily M. Lily M, our singer we had here. She's a singer-songwriter and only 14 years old, and sounds like she's been singing, about 20 or so. I don't want to make it sound too long because I don't think you want to be too old, but she's sang in a bunch of different places, including a couple years ago here at Memorial Day for us. She's an avid singer and on a number of different venues, to include even professional sporting places like the Timberwolves. And one of the things she does is she tries to go and help others way beyond herself. And that service that we've been talking about, and whether it's military service or community service, it's all about service that I think drives a lot of us, and it drives Lily too. So one of the things she's trying to do is talk to her peers about, a quote, making your money count, simple personal finance for youth. And she's got 4 little phrases that really means a lot, and she's spot on. It's save fast, spend slow, steer clear of debt, let's go. Pretty catchy, huh? So that's save fast, spend slow, steer clear of debt, let's go. Lily, spot on. Thank you. I'm still trying to teach my adult children that. So, all right, so we can kind of continue on with the program here. I'm particularly pleased now to introduce our inaugural Stillwater Veterans Memorial Military Service Scholarship Award. So this CAS scholarship is for a Stillwater area high school student who's been accepted into military service following high school graduation. And it's made available through the St. Croix Valley Foundation and the Stillwater Veterans Memorial. And it's provided in honor and memory of longtime Stillwater residents Jim and Joan Ratty by their 4 sons, all of whom graduated from Stillwater area high school, or Stillwater High School back then, and are veterans of the U.S. military, along with their father, Jim. So this year's scholarship recipient is Holton King. Holton's off to Tulane this fall as a member of the Orleans Army Reserve Officer Training Corps Battalion. And I'd like to read an excerpt from Holton's package that he submitted for this award. Holton writes, "Since I was a young boy, I've envisioned myself in the Army. This feeling I directly credit to my parents, both who served in the Army during the First Gulf War. Successful completion of the Army ROTC program is more than a family tradition to me. It means a life of honor, distinguishment, and excellence. A life dedicated to service, teamwork, and leadership, where I'm certain to build lasting relationships. Through playing 3 varsity sports, I've come to realize how much I value teamwork, leadership, and physical fitness, all key aspects of ROTC. Although the personal benefits associated with ROTC and joining the Army are great, what really stands out to me is being a part of something far greater than myself. Amen, Holden. The late John McCain articulated this perfectly when he said, "Nothing in life is more liberating than to fight for a cause larger than yourself, something that encompasses you, but is not defined by your existence alone." I feel as though it's my obligation to give back to a country that has given me so much, again, much like Chaplain Morris was talking about. In short, I've realized that it's not only my duty to serve, but is in fact my distinct privilege and honor. Holton, on behalf of a grateful St. Croix Valley community, we thank you for your interest in serving in our country's military and wish you all the best as you embark upon the next phase of your life. All right, keeping it dry. There you go. And there's your check. Spend it wisely. Hey, Holton, this is for your dad. So I now invite committee member Harriet McPherson to the podium to honor 12 veterans who's recently purchased pavers will allow their service be enshrined here at the Stillwater Veterans Memorial. In fact, the pavers are right over there. We have little flags behind there, right underneath the tent. We will also recognize their family members and friends who are in attendance and ask you to stand if able when your veteran's name is called. Harriet.
Welcome to everybody. It's wonderful to have so many of you here today. Not the most pleasant Memorial Day we've ever had, but one that we certainly agree with John Morris's ideas, that we're here to honor the people that gave their lives and those that fought even though they didn't give their lives. On our spire we have on the wall the names of all the young men and women that actually went to schools in District 834 and died in the service of their country. We have 1,500 pavers that people from anywhere and everywhere have bought for their service members and are placed throughout our memorial. This year, like Dave says, we have 12 new pavers, which are located over here to the right. And we will start with Jerry Furseth is the first name. Are there any of the Furseth family here today? I don't. Oh, there they are. Well, Mary, you're with two families. Mary Furseth is Jerry's niece, probably, and then the mother of the second name we have is Air Force veteran Pete Furseth, and you're his mom. Okay, so we honor those two people from the Furseth family, and they're a little. And they're kind of interconnected with the next four names that we have. And the Furseths were a Bayport family too. But the next four names we have are the Parent family. And they are an old Bayport family that have been there forever. We're going to start with Willis Parent, who served on the front lines with the 45th Armored Medical Battalion in the European theater during World War II, including the bitter cold of the Battle of the Bulge. And he is joined with three other parents who are either brothers or cousins. Army veteran Hollis Parent, World War II. Army veteran Raymond Parent, World War II. Army veteran Robert Parent, World War II. So the Parent family, those four young Parent men, all served in World War II. Now, are there more parents than over here? Oh, okay, way over to my left. We have a lot of the parent family. Great to have you all here. I think one of them is Connie, who used to be the mayor of Bayport. She's still on the Bayport Council. So great to have you guys all here. The next family we have is the Stevens family. And I know we have some of them here today. I talked to them earlier. Michael Stevens, we'll start with you, is a Navy veteran, and he has a new paver this year. His wife Denise is here with him, and will all the Stevens family please stand up? And joining Michael with new pavers are his dad, Navy veteran Walter Stevens, and his brother, Navy veteran David Stevens. So thank you for all of you being here today. The next name that we have is Army veteran David Rickert, or Richard, I don't know how you pronounce it, Richard, okay. Are you some of the Lake Elmo? Richard? No, you're not, okay. Well, why don't your family members stand up, or don't you want to get up? Nice to have all of you here today, thank you. Now we have Army veteran Joseph Anthony Tenner. He was Civil War. Do we have any of his relatives here? He was, oh, way over there. Okay, way over to our right. Thank you for being here. Joseph was born in Switzerland and came to America, was only here less than a year, and joined the United States Army and fought for us in the Civil War. And the last name that we have today is a Marine, veteran Kenneth Wyroth. Oh, there they are, right over there. Okay, nice to have you here. He served in Afghanistan as a member of the 1st Radio Battalion out of Camp Pendleton. We're very happy to have all of you here and have you be part of our Veterans Memorial, which most years we have 1,000 people here. So you brave hearts that are here today and enjoying your wet feet like I am, which reminds me of our son riding home from Vietnam, where he said sometimes they didn't take their boots off for 3 weeks. So all of us know what it is. We're here because we're veterans or honoring veterans, and we know that they all suffered. So what we're doing today is just fun and games. Thank you for being here. Now I would like to introduce John Kramer, who will talk about the Minnesota casualties of war in the last year.
Good afternoon, everyone. Each year at this time, we recognize Minnesotans who have paid the ultimate sacrifice in this last year, and then too those missing who we have recovered from their battlefields. This year we honor a Marine and a Navy sailor, both from northern Minnesota, who were separated by 78 years in their service. On January 1st of this year, Marine Corps Lance Corporal Riley Kuznia was killed in an accidental weapons discharge at the Marine Corps Barracks in Washington, D.C. Lance Corporal Kuznia was assigned to post security and guard duty at the Marine Corps barracks at that time. Riley Kuznia was a 2017 graduate of Carlstad High School and was buried in his hometown of Carlstad on January 12th of this year. Then this past week, the remains of World War II Navy radioman 3rd Class Dante Teeny were returned to his hometown of Virginia for burial on Saturday, 2 days ago. Dante Teeny had been serving on the USS Oklahoma when Pearl Harbor was attacked on December 7th, 1941. Dante and 428 of his shipmates went down with their ship that date and had since been missing status. Recently, Dante's remains were identified from extensive DNA analysis. Then, too, on this day, and particularly here at this site, former Stillwater Senior High School, we honor the 125 students of Stillwater schools who made the ultimate sacrifice in our nation's 6 wars from the Civil War through Vietnam. Of that number, 23 never came home. 7 remain missing, and 16 are buried in American battle monument cemeteries in 7 different countries throughout the world. Let us honor and pray for all those selfless souls and their families, and never forget their ultimate sacrifice in defense of our freedoms and our very way of life. Thank you.
Good afternoon. At this time, we honor those who paid the ultimate sacrifice in defense of our country. I will introduce individuals representing the various branches of service who will be laying wreaths on the various crosses behind me, as well as remembering our missing in action and prisoners of war. Placing a wreath for U.S. Army veterans, Miss Mary Claire Lindbergh, in memory of her son, Sergeant Benjamin John Miller, United States Army, places a wreath on behalf of the United States Army. U.S. Navy veteran Paul Kirkwood places a wreath on behalf of the United States Navy. U.S. Marine Corps veteran John Ganaway places a wreath on behalf of the United States Marine Corps. United States Coast Guard, James Malman, United States Coast Guard, places a wreath on behalf of the United States Coast Guard. U.S. Merchant Marine, John Lucetta, United States Marine Corps, places a wreath on behalf of the United States Merchant Marine. United States Air Force, Don Rice, United States Air Force,
places a wreath on behalf of the United States Air Force and in honor of Everett Alexander Rice, U.S. Air Force bombardier from World War II. POW, MIA, Tom Simonette places a wreath on behalf of all prisoners of war and missing in action service members from all our nation's wars and conflicts. Thank you, gentlemen and ladies.
Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for a task response. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. We'll have one musical number by the Stillwater Wind Symphony. And ladies and gentlemen, good news is we are getting towards the end of our program, and as we near the conclusion of this ceremony, certainly I want to thank you all for coming today. And we want to thank our guest speakers and all those who participated behind the events, those who made the event happen. You can find some names in the program, but I'd like to highlight we got Johnny's TV here providing our sound. We've got Valley Access Channel providing the video, which you can find online later, and we'll post it. We've got food support by Kowalski's, Culver's, and Dunn Brothers. So please, on the way out, grab a cookie or 10 or so, because we serve an army and we have kind of a platoon here instead of a battalion. We want to thank, of course, the Silver Wind Symphony and previously the Cry Chorsmen for our music. Hey, Boy Scout Troop 249, they're here every year helping us out. We thank them greatly for this as they help set up and take down. We have several volunteers, some of whom identified in your program. And I see Karen Miller there. Thank you, Karen, for all the hard work that you do at this site. She's responsible for all the flowers. Karen Elhai, she helps out with the plantings. And thank you, ladies, for what you do here. You'll see an insert in your bulletin about the August 19th early evening benefit dinner cruise on St. Croix. That's important to our organization. It's our primary fundraiser that helps us keep this place alive as you see it. And then we'll be back here at the memorial on November 11th, 11:30 for Veterans Day ceremony. And again, check your program insert or visit with a committee member to find out more. Today we're provided, our benediction is Deputy Russell Fox and Sergeant Wayne Johnson of the Washington County Sheriff's Office. And they're up on the courthouse portico, and they're going to be playing Amazing Grace. Gentlemen. And one last thanks I kind of want to highlight and single them out. It's Rob Walker of Stillsville LLC. Rob labors at this site tirelessly annually between the winter and the snows, as well as the summer and the grass cutting and the other maintenance items. So Rob's right over here in the orange. Thank you, Rob, for your great work in Stillsville's and your dad and everybody's help on that. All right, ladies and gentlemen, please rise while we return the flag to full staff. And salute. Two. Again, thank you all for coming today, and most importantly, grab a cookie or 10 and partake in refreshments in the back, courtesy of those good folks from, as I mentioned, Kowalski's, Culver's, and Dunn Brothers. Thank you much. Have a pleasant tomorrow.
Everybody stand up.